Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Encourage Mindset. I'm your host, Ethan Vandehyve.
And alongside me today, I have Chris Whited. I'm very excited to hear what he's going to be sharing today about encouraging others, developing habits, but most importantly, building self-confidence. Chris, welcome to the show. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
All right, Ethan, and thank you for having me on the Encourage Mindset podcast. This is an exciting time, and I look forward to this. I grew up a farm boy. Both my grandfathers farmed pretty much in the same county. And growing up, I only had one dream, and that was to be a father to a little girl. And I got that wish. She's 19 today and off in college. But little girls, they require money. And so I never really thought about what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I met a man, who's now my business partner today, who thought that I had the knack for sales. And he started me out in a company called Agri Solutions, which was selling managerial accounting software and consulting to farm operations throughout the U.S. and Canada. And in 2006, we created the Family Farms Group, which is a organization structured like the NFL and for farms to combat consolidation, which brought me to traveling all over the U.S. and Canada, speaking to farms about consolidation. That gave me an opportunity to do the same thing in the supply chain. And today, we're taking a crack at the hemp industry.
It sounds like you've been a busy man, so that's awesome. Well, my first question for you, Chris, is, are you currently happy with kind of what you've done with your life? Are you happy?
That's a good question. I consider happiness to be like a current. Sometimes it has its ups and downs. And what I've learned is through the Huffington Post and Psychology Today and many other organizations is that forward progress is what causes individuals to be happy and satisfied with their life. And yes, I am happy with the progress that's went on. At times you always want more, but sometimes it's just a steady flow of just making the progress and seeing where you come out.
Exactly. So earlier you kind of hit on the point of you hit one of your goals in life, which was to have a daughter. And now, since you're in sales, you're in a business, and you aren't in the farming industry surrounding that much. But how has your goals kind of changed, and maybe what are some of them, and how have you conquered them?
Okay. Well, my first main goal that is always the focus is to build a legacy for my daughter. In the farming community, growing up in agriculture and talking about consolidation, you see a lot of farms get to a certain point with multiple generations in there, and then it just kind of slowly declines and goes away. And so how that relates to my goals is that I try to look at the macro factors that drive consolidation in the agricultural industry. And one of the main ones is the parents' inability to envision what is going to come down in the future. And usually the children have more insight because, dad, mom, they get to a point in their life where they're ready to retire, ready to scale back. They're not thinking about the future as much, but their kids who are going to take over this business are. And so my goal is to build a steady foundation for my daughter, because just like in farming, I've watched my family do that as well. They didn't have access to all the technology and all the information that we do today. So it was harder for them to be able to build, a legacy for their children. But I think that we have great advantages to do that today in today's world. Another one is fitness. I'm 42 years old, and I believe in taking care of my body. My mom always taught me that what you put into your body and your mind is what you get out of your mind. And so I avidly work out 6 days a week so that I can stay in shape and stay healthy and fuel my body properly so that I can continue to keep going and continue to work the way that I do and continue to spend time, with my daughter and be able to do things like that as well. And then financial goals and vocational goals are always important. I spend a lot of time looking at my financials, looking at the industry, looking at what's going on and making sure that emotionally I have the right mindset and that I'm taking the right steps to, outpace some of what we're seeing here today with inflation and rising costs and things like that.
Excellent. That's awesome to see you have a variety of goals. That's something that I've always tried to get myself to do. And now we're going to kind of switch gears and kind of hit on some questions that really challenge you, but also challenge our audience. And that's kind of our first question is, what is the best advice on keeping focused on important matters when distractions in our lives are constant?
I have a saying for that. It's called your focus needs focus. And it's difficult. We get distractions in life. Distractions come up all the time. And sometimes they're unneeded distractions, but many times they are much needed distractions. Your kids need your attention. Your spouse wants to communicate more or build upon your relationship. And there are just many distractions in life, and they come up constantly. And it's not that they're not important. So you have to prioritize. One thing that I do is, technology is a beautiful thing, but it can be a huge distraction. But now they got features on there where you can silence your phone, put it to sleep. So depending on what situation I am, if I'm in a meeting or if I'm presenting, I always make sure that the technology shut off and that I'm focused on that one thing at that one time. When I'm with my family or friends, I wasn't always good at this when I was younger, but a lot of times I will put my phone on silence so that my time with them is my time with them. And the same thing with work. I make lists. My best friend Darcy used to tell me anytime I'd start to get frustrated, sit down and make a list. And it is something that I started doing years ago because of what I heard IT people say all the time. They always said that, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, right? So I put down on my list what the overarching goal or objective is, and then I break it down into tiny bite-sized pieces. And then I sit there and I focus on each step at a time. And I try not to move ahead because I tend to be a person that wants to jump far ahead of where I am. But sometimes you have to build that foundation before you can jump ahead onto the next project.
Yeah, I agree. Getting 1% better every day is huge. And I really like what you said there. I think a lot of people, especially myself, sometimes you just really want to go for the home run shot and see what you can do. And sometimes you realize, like you said, you got to take small steps at a time to be successful. So, Chris, I have another question for you. And this question is requiring habits. So if you have any habits, this one is kind of challenging. And I've had a lot of people answer this one differently. So what is the habit requiring the least effort that makes the greatest difference?
That is an excellent question. And I have to say it's listening to people and really thinking about what they have to say. I know when I first started out in sales, I didn't always listen to the people that I was talking to. I wanted to make that sale. Like most people, I wanted that commission, right? But I realized that when you don't worry about the money and you just really listen to what people have to say and see what's behind their words, the money will come. It's like Henry Ford said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse. So if you want to get better at listening, I also suggest learning how to ask the right questions. That's a very important one. And a good book that I always suggest to people to help them develop this skill is my buddy David Waldo's book. It's The Art of the Question. It can be found on Amazon, but it really helps you. I mean, the point of listening is to learning from others and to realize that you are not the smartest person in the room. And as we educate ourselves, we tend to inadvertently think that we have all the answers, and we got to cut that out in order to really listen and to hear somebody. And so learning how to ask the right questions and learning what is behind their answers, in my opinion, is extremely important habit to develop. And it really doesn't take that much effort. You just clear your mind and you sit there and you listen to what they're really saying and you ask follow-up and clarifying questions.
Yeah, and that is something that I need to change sometimes, because especially when we're doing podcasts like this, and I really just want to hear everyone's answers to all of my questions. Sometimes I just don't really fully understand what they say all the time because I'm always looking ahead towards the next question. I'll be like, all right, what's the next question I can ask? Rather than hearing their answer, listening to it, and then responding. So perfect answer there, Chris. I loved that. So now you kind of said about listening, but is being your best advice. So what would be an offer of advice about beginning, changing habits, or starting fresh?
I'd say that it's important to reframe your reality. You know, there are too many people in life who feel stuck, and a lot of times they feel stuck because of their past, the way that they were raised, their circumstances, or they lack the confidence to believe that they can create a different reality. But, you know, a habit is nothing more than a pattern or a routine. And you know what? Patterns and routines can be changed. My advice is to define the habits that need to be adapted to create the results that you're looking for, and then move forward with those habits. According to the Huffington Post, it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days to form a new habit. And really, when you think about it, that is a very short investment of time to change the direction of your life. And so my advice is to look at your habits, look at the patterns, see if they're self-destructive, and see what you need to change to accomplish what you really want to move forward.
Chris, I love that. But that sometimes I think the problem is a lot of people in this generation, they want the quick fix today. What can I do in 5 minutes to make me more successful, or make me have more money, or get me famous on social media platforms? It's so sad, but that's the way most people are. I want to be shredded. Well, of course, if you want to be shredded, you have to go to the gym and you have to put in the work. And they just think, okay, I can be shredded in 5 minutes by doing 10 push-ups a day or whatever it is. They just want the quick, easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's incredibly common. And I can tell you, at times in my life, I wanted the quick, easy fix too. But I learned that you have to put in the work.
mm-hmm.
You sow what you reap.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Chris, on Encourage Mindset today?
Yeah, I'd like to encourage people to read and educate themselves. You know, I'm taking a journey through Paul Coelho's book. His books, The Alchemist, The Pilgrimage, The Warrior of Light. It talks a lot about a person's journey and finding their purpose. And it's incredibly philosophical, but it's easy to relate to. They're easy reads. And in my opinion, they're incredibly encouraging to walk through life and even look at life at some of the ways that he does in his books. And he brings those stories out amazingly. I would also encourage listeners to read Brad Lee. He's a new author. I actually heard him on one of my buddies' podcasts who's in this same building. And I would say that any young man or anybody that is strong-willed and wants to change their life, and I say strong-willed because I always believe that strong-willed children, they can either be incredibly successful or incredibly detrimental, right? They have that strong will, they have that energy, they're looking for what to do with their lives, and they need guidance sometimes. And I think his book is really good. It's called The Lessons That I've Learned the Hard Way So That You Don't Have to. And anyone who feels stuck should just read that book, in my opinion, or anybody that wants to really just take life and make it their own should read that. And then I just often tell people that, the road to success, it's filled with many failures, and that can be discouraging, but it's up to you how you learn from those failures and you navigate those failures. So my advice is that failures aren't negative at all. They're opening the door for you to learn something new and learn a different way than what you're used to.
Perfect. Awesome. I love that message. And I think no matter what it is, be uncomfortable with yourself. That's okay. You're allowed to face your fears, be uncomfortable, and continue to just be yourself. I think ultimately being yourself and putting yourself in new situations will be the best in your life. Thank you, Chris, for coming on to today's show. It means a lot.
Well, thank you, Ethan, for having me. I really appreciate this, and I've enjoyed listening to your podcast the past few weeks. So
thank you. Yeah, no problem. And stay in touch. And I wish the best for you and hope we can chat again soon sometime.
All righty. Sounds good, Ethan. Well, take care.
So if you're ready to grow, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let's build a mindset that empowers and transforms.